Hey guys, welcome to Ark Survival Ascended. And this is going to be a new type of video that I'm going to be trying out. And this is going to be something I want to see how well it goes. And this video is going to be about like when you first start off in Extinction and you don't really know where to go or how to start, where to start. This isn't going to be like a guide or anything. This is just going to be like a preferred like spawn point of where you want to go. So, for example, either from the Sanctuary or the Sunken Forest. And first, we're going to be doing some pros and cons with the Sunken Forest and the Sanctuary. And we'll be starting off with the Sanctuary first. So, one of the main positives as of right now is using the city terminals. As you can see, there are quite an abundance of city terminals that you can just quickly run over and like import or export your creatures from Extinction and from other maps, like right here, and you can just go up to it and just access it, and then you can do some like elemental crafting and stuff. However, there doesn't seem to be any way to be able to like craft cryopods and cryofridges, because I will show you real quick that I do have them like enabled on my character. So yeah, cryofridges enabled. I need to enable that real quick, and it does seem to be that it only works with the boss tribunal terminals. But other than that, there are a lot of them around here, especially in the northern section of the city. Like a lot of them. And the second positive for this is that there are a lot of ways that you can get a ton of scrap metal and crystal and elemental dust, which are late game items that you can get, mid to late game items that you can get, and there are an abundance of them, a whole lot of them that you can just go around, fly around, and just quickly get a whole bunch of them, from these lampposts right here to these other kinds of lampposts. And there's some like tables right here. And again, there are a lot of them. A lot of different types of like lampposts and like a lot of like tables, and it'll be actually be pretty difficult to not find any of them. And like some up here, as you can see right here. And some chairs and benches right here. And even from like defense units and enforcers, which I will hopefully find one real soon. But yeah, there are a abundance of creatures. There's abundance of different kinds of scrap metal, elemental dust, and crystal that you can easily get, and especially electronics as well. I forgot to mention that electronics, you can get a lot of them as well, so you don't really need to worry about getting silica pearls and wasting metal on electronics. Like, you can easily just fly around and just get some. The next positive for this sanctuary is that there are an abundance and variety of creatures that can spawn in the sanctuary alone, ranging from easy tames from like Megaloceros, Stegosauruses, and Parasaurs, Pteranodons, Dilos, Pachyes, Kentros, Carnos, and from later to endgame types of creatures like Rexes and Megatheriums, and even must-have creatures such as Argentavises, Ankies, and Doedicurises. can spawn in the sanctuary as well. And again, there are a huge variety of creatures that can spawn in, and it will be actually pretty impossible to like look around and can't find at least one creature that you desperately need, like an Argentavis or a Doedicurus or a Anki, because there are quite a bit, especially around that green obelisk, because I've seen quite a bit of different creatures spawn in that location specifically. Another very good positive with this is the easier access of going to elemental veins and orbital drops. And there is one right over here. So yeah, a lot of these, especially the easier ones like the blue or gamma stuff, are very, very easy to just go from the city all the way to Jer, because it's literally just a short trip from, like, even if you are like deep into the city, like you can still don't have to like worry about traveling too far from the sanctuary from dealing with these easier like drops, and especially if you have like slower creatures, which does benefit a lot, especially with like some of these access ways right here does allow it, like it's really just a straightforward, just head that way once you head out. And another elemental vein that just spawned somewhere is way over there, but it still does give you some clearance from this gateway to all the way over there. And even though it is an alpha elemental vein, it still does prove my point that it's very, very easy to just leave the city and just head straight towards like the OSDs or supply drops. And some of the easier ones, like around this area right here, is also very easy to just travel and just start the OSD or elemental veins. Now let's go into some cons with this, with living in the sanctuary or starting off in the sanctuary. And firstly is dealing with a ton of defense units. A lot of them spawn, and I mean a lot of them do spawn in this area, in the sanctuary. And while they don't necessarily attack you initially, unless if you do attack them, they do just seem to attack any creatures, whether they are tamed or wild. They will just still just try and kill your tames. And that can be extremely frustrating, especially if you're trying to tame like creatures yourself, like an Argent or a Doedicurus or an Anki, and these guys just roll up and they just start ruining your tames and all that. It's a really horrible experience, especially if you're trying to get pretty good like taming effectiveness from them. Next up is the Megatherium with bugs. As you can see, and for those that don't know, Megatheriums do have this initial buff if there are bugs nearby that does cause them to become frenzied and bug high, and they'll just start killing anything in sight. And I mean, they would literally try and kill anything in sight. And it's not even like an exaggeration. It is literally like they will just start throwing hands at anyone and anything that is in its general area. And it can be extremely terrifying, especially when they have that damage boost. And it is very very, very dangerous. And again, there are a lot of bugs that do spawn, not only from those annoying ants that just spawn right next to you. It feels like they spawn right next to you, but also spiders that also spawn in here as well. As for example, like a lot of these do appear to be spawning up on top of this, and on top of these like little like bridges and walkways and all whatnot. Yeah, as you can see, this one is just going after this poor little Lystro and just murdered it. It killed it in cold blood, and now it's gonna try to kill me. But yeah, a lot of it, and not to mention that a lot of the creatures can just drop from walkways and platforms and whatnot, and it can be a very, very bad luck case, but it can still happen. And I'd rather not have that at all. And a personal con from mine is the fact that I've seen some asteroids just, especially from the northern side of the city, which is like this area right around here, is also for some reason is able to like lose or get hit by the asteroid. Like the shield doesn't necessarily work around the northern side. So if you are living around the northern side of the city, then that might be an issue, because some I definitely have seen some asteroids just literally going through the city and just exploding on the buildings and whatnot. It's really nerve-wracking, because like the sanctuary is supposed to be like one of the three main like areas. Like these two domes and the sanctuary is supposed to be like the safe zone from all this like asteroid shenanigans. But for whatever reason, this northern side of the city just doesn't seem to have that protection. At the very least, I feel like that the southern side and maybe in the middle does seem to work with the shield, but the northern side just feels very unsafe. So I do, if you are starting off, then I would highly or recommend going southern. Go south to build your base instead of settling in the northern area of the city, because it does seem that the shield doesn't necessarily work with the with the asteroids. Another con that I've noticed as well is that there are some corrupted creatures that can enter through the city. Corrupted pteranodons are the most likely to easily, are the most likely to be able to easily get into the city without any trouble whatsoever. Because it'll have to, because like Carnos, Dilos, Stegos, Raptors, Trikes, all those types of corrupt creatures will be able to like enter through the city, and we'll have to like enter through like holes or gateways, but then they'll also have to like fight with like defense units, and I'm pretty sure enforcers as well, since they are considered corrupted creatures. But pteranodons seem to have the easiest access to just fly in while chasing a pteranodon or a tapejara, and then eventually they'll probably find you and your creatures, and it'll start harassing you and your creatures and probably kill a couple. And also, considering that corrupted creatures can also damage your structures, no matter what tier your structure is, they can damage all the way up to tech tier. So yeah, they're gonna be a nuisance to not only to your tames but also to your buildings as well. And yeah, they're gonna be very, very annoying to deal with, especially if they're just gonna be led in by like wild pteranodons and tapejaras. And now the last one is also kind of it's kind of unsure a lot, but I do know it's guaranteed, but it's just random at times. But also another con that I found is when you're dealing with, when you're starting off in like the island or scorched earth or aberration or any other map, then you always have to like kill creatures to get some of the hide and stuff and all that, the usual. Well, apparently, in the sanctuary they don't allow that sort of thing. So like with enforcers and scouts, they if a scout were to see you like trying to tame a creature or attack it or try and kill it, then it will like mark you as a hostile, and then enforcers will try and kill you. But for whatever reason, I don't know, like at least for me, I did test it beforehand to see of how frequent this is and how it really works. But I don't know, like a lot it feels so random at times. Like there was times where I would like attack a creature until it's dead, and the scouts are marking me and are mad at me, but the scout isn't mad at me for some reason. And so I'm not entirely sure of like what is the issue. And I think that's probably worse because of how unpredictable they can be. Because you could be like worried, like you could be fully aware that there is that there's an enforcer nearby and there's some scouts flying around, and you're just never wanting to like just even dare think about harming another creature because you know that the scouts are going to mark you, and then the enforcer is just going to just ruin your day. But then there are other times as well where you can just literally just harass a creature and just kill it, like multiple creatures, and the enforcers will not aggro to you, but the scouts will, but the enforcers won't. But the scouts also do aggro you if you are holding a weapon as well, so like bows, crossbows, I'm pretty sure also like picks and hatchets are also considered weapons. And I believe, yeah, I mean, other than like firearms, crossbows, bows, and maybe hatchets and picks, those are the only things that I can tell that they passively can aggro to you without you trying to hurt a creature. Because the only way that you can actually aggro them is actually attacking them, obviously, or attacking a passive or neutral creature, like a stego or a parasaur. We are now at the Sunken Forest. So, the first positive in the Sunken Forest when you start off here is obviously the gotchas. The gotchas, if you have not known about gotchas, they are probably the most must-have creatures in all of Ark, actually. Why? While they're not necessarily great in combat, they are amazing for one simple thing, which is giving you resources. And they're not the typical traditional way of getting resources like Dodicaruses and Ankies, or Pharazinos with wood, but also they do give you crystals, and they can give you a decent amount of items from that crystal. And even lower level ones, from my experience, they do seem to give you a reasonable amount. And especially with now the baby gotchas now being implemented, they are a lot easier to get from what I've known. And I'm pretty sure that they are still a pain to like raise up, especially since that you have to like feed it with a ton of berries and whatnot, and they'll just start consuming it because they're like trying to make crystals, but they can't because they're babies, and it's just a nightmare to deal with. And as you can see right here with some of these gotchas right here, there's a baby right there, and after you can kill one, you can tame the baby, you give it the meat and berries for it just to keep it alive. Hopefully it'll raise up, and then you can also check to see like what their production is and just see like most likely it will be a useful thing, whether it be like fiber, stone, wood, or even metal, or even elemental dust. Like these guys will be able to make them, and they are a must-have to tame. Another positive that I've noticed as well is that asteroids obviously are going to have a pretty hard time crashing through here, as obviously you are underground. There's literally no way that an asteroid can just fly in, other than this one general area, but I mean that has to be like a very narrow chance for that to happen. And even then, like, you probably wouldn't be like setting up base around here. You'll probably be setting up where like water is, like right here or all the way down this riverside. Like there is zero chances that the asteroid would just be able to like crash through here, unless if it just ignore collision. That's the only explanation I can think of, is that it, for whatever reason, just ignored collision from the top, but then it was able to crash down at the very bottom. That's the only explanation I can think of if it does, or that very small hole entrance that it can. It does also have a very random chance of that coming in through that hole. So yeah, it's pretty much impossible for that to happen, even if you were wanting to build in that area right there for whatever reason. Because yeah, it's extremely difficult. Next positive is there are an abundance of beaver dams all around the Sunken Forest. And since this is technically a giant like river or lake thing, then there are going to be a lot of beavers and a lot of dams that you can easily access for like wood and cementing paste and rare flowers and rare mushrooms as well. And again, a lot of this area where I'm showing right now is possible spawn points for the beavers and the dams as well. And it's very easy to find. Like, all you need to do is just go around here, just maybe go like, even like, if you can't find it like around here, then all you just need to do is just like go like a couple of feet, and then you'll find a dam like right here, for example. Like, that's a dam. Those are dams, and I think that one is a dam as well. And down here there's a dam, and there's two of them. And yeah, it's very easy to find them. Now the problem is escaping, but I'm pretty sure that you guys know how to escape. Another positive that I personally would say it's good is that there aren't a lot of larger threats like Tyrannosaurus Rex. There's no Reaper Kings. There's no enraged Megatheriums. But there does seem to be, at the very most, like Therizinos and annoyingly Troodons and Carnotaurus do spawn in the Sunken Forest. However, I do think that after you do tame like just any creature that is rideable, then you essentially have already beaten the Troodon's problem, and just get a strong enough creature and you'll be able to like defeat raptors and even Carnos. And the only real major threat right now is the Therizinos. And personally, I would say that is a problem, a pretty big problem for me at least, because of how they always seem to be extremely racist towards my tamed creatures and towards me. And it's very. They also just seem to like, and they just happen, quote unquote, happen to enter my area, and I have entered its territory, quote unquote, entered its territory, even though that it was like probably like all the way over there, and I probably built my base here, but then for whatever reason, it just decided to just cross the river and just make itself here. But it's okay then, it's because I am in its territory, I guess. But other than that, like, there's not a lot of threats around here, and a lot of the stuff that are threats, then it can be easily be defeated by just grabbing a couple of strong creatures, and probably not even like strong creatures. Just have a creature you can ride on, and you can essentially just nullify like Troodons knocking you out all the time. We go into the negatives. So firstly is the very, very limited amount of creatures that spawn. And when I say limited, I mean there aren't going to be a huge variety of creatures. Because there's like beavers, there's some packies, there's raptors, there's carnos, there's iguanodons, there's gotchas, there's fairies. But there's not a lot of like very necessary creatures, such as Argentavises, Doedicurises, and Ankies that spawn in here. And you will need to like find somewhere else in order to get the more common meta creatures. Tapajars do spawn here, so if you do want a flyer, then Tapajars are a good option to get when you're starting off in Extinction. However, I do believe that they are like a pretty high level to get the saddle. Yeah, 55. So that might be a bit of a difficult hurdle to go over, but once you do, they're pretty nice to as a flyer, especially when you just want to exit the area really quickly. And that does lead to our next con with this. With exiting the sanctuary can be extremely tedious and very, very dangerous. As you can see, a lot of this, like from this area right here, like you want to leave the sanctuary, and if you are on foot, then it will take you a good amount of time to get from the bottom in the sanctuary, or not the sanctuary, the Sunken Forest, all the way up to the wastelands, and turn like one of the domes or the sanctuary. Then it will take you a good amount of time to get from the Sunken Forest all the way up to the wastelands, because right now, like, we're not even in the Sunken Forest yet. You're still going through like all this like dead air stuff. Like, there's not really interesting area, just a lot of it. Like now we're in the Sunken Forest now. Like, even then, like, it's very, very long. It's very long and very, very tedious if you were to go on foot. And it does not get any better from there, as there are a ton of corrupted creatures that can just spawn in. And which leads to our next con, which is that there are good chances where endgame creatures, and especially endgame corrupted creatures, can just spawn in. Like this corrupted Reaper King is just over the edge of this entrance of the Sunken Forest, as well as Tyrannosaurus Rexes. And I, thankfully, right now, I have not seen any wyverns. I'm not sure if they're supposed to be spawning in this area or not, especially with Gigas, corrupted Gigas. I haven't seen any of those. and I haven't seen any rock drakes, which honestly I haven't seen any rock. I only saw one when I was doing one of the orbital supply drops, like way over there in that more difficult area. But I have never. They seem really rare to me. Next up is the next con for this is that there is only one city terminal that you can access, and even then that is like really difficult to get to, because let's say that you finally exit the sunken forest and you want to get to the city terminal. However, there's like a ton of creatures that are just dropping in, like corrupted, and wild creatures are like fighting each other. You have to like make a break for it, and you have to like go up here, and like you have to go through this area, go through this like crevice, like all these corrupted creatures, and all these end game, late game creatures. And there's a Reaper King, there's a Rax up there, there's a ton of horrible things. You have to go up here, you have to go all up here, and then you have to go around this way, and then you have to like just say screw it off here, go through here, and then go through here, run, and then there's a city terminal right over here. But even then, that there's like some corrupted creatures, there's some argents, there's some other stuff that is just not great, and it'll probably kill you and your creature as you're getting knocked around and all that horrible stuff, which honestly is a huge negative, as the only city terminal from the Sunken Forest is it is very long, and it can get very ugly even if you are careful with it. Like, it can easily be like troublesome and very ugly. And the last one I want to comment on with the negatives for the Sunken Forest is the lack of endgame resources, such as scrap metal and elemental dust, and some, at least from what I've seen, metal and crystal, because a lot of the crystal and metal around here does seem to have a pretty weird like position of where they're set up, because like a lot of this is like on like pillars and like platforms and whatnot. Like there's abundance of metal right here, which is fine, but there's like crystals like right up here. There's like more metal, but there's no real way of reasonably getting up there on foot from what I'm seeing. So you probably will, yeah, there's like a visible wall right there, so you can't get up there. And this is a really nice place actually, but there isn't like a lot of like reasonable ways of getting out there on foot, especially if you're doing it early game. Like right here, this is a huge pillar. There's no way of getting up there. Well, like a flyer or like a one of the aberrations, like mechanics. Like there's crystals, there's obsidian, like, but that's completely off limits until you get the Tapajar or Pteranodon or some kind of flyer, or something that can easily like something that can help you get up there easier without doing it on foot or somehow walking up there. But again, a lot of these can be nullified with the gotchas, so technically it's not a negative, it's more so just like an annoyance if you don't have gotchas, which again, you probably do need a gotcha for the crystal and the obsidian and metal if you aren't. So what do you guys think? Do you think the Sanctuary is better off for having newer players to hang around here and start off? Or do you think that players would benefit more from spawning in the Sunken Forest? Hopefully you guys find this informative and useful for you guys, especially for newer players that are probably wanting to see like where to spawn and stuff. and hopefully you guys do like the video, and as always, I will see you all later.